Good morning, everyone. Mike's MMA Picks here, checking in with you on this Saturday morning. We've got another UFC event today, UFC Vegas 70, where we have Ryan Spann taking on Nikita Krylov. 9 out of 11 fights on this card are expected to end inside the distance. This is a card where I don't recommend forcing any action. Let the plays come to you. There are going to be tons of opportunities ahead throughout the year. So there's no need to force any action on any of these plays unless you really see an edge. I was tweeting out earlier today that this is the time to really pick your spots. And I have a couple of free plays up today. Looking forward to this one. First fight of the night. We've got a lightweight matchup between an undefeated fighter in Aliev, coming in as a minus 180 betting favorite, taking on Aliev-Alves at plus 155. An underdog, a UFC veteran, a very explosive fighter in Alves, who does have 11 losses on his record. And you look at the way Alves fights, comes out of the gates extremely hot, and then tends to fade late in fights. On the other side of this fight, Aliev, fighting out of Tajikistan, a fighter who is proficient in Sambo and wrestling. And you watched the weigh-ins, and the guy does fight like Khabib Nurmagomedov. There is only one Khabib Nurmagomedov, though, so don't be a believer that this kid is the next champion, though he is only 23 years old. The arrows pointed up. Looked like he cut a lot of weight headed into this matchup. Alves, though, shredded. A guy who, when you talk physicality, even deep in fights, even though he doesn't have much left in the tank, has been able to push through. I'm leaning towards Aliev here. I don't have a play on this fight. Aliev has the ability to take fighters down and then play in their guard for a while. Alves, dangerous fighter to do that against. I'll be picking Aliev, and I recognize a lot of folks are on the under here. I wouldn't surprise me to see Aliev try to grind this fight out. So give me Aliev to win. I saw fight doesn't go the distance, around minus 145 or so. Not touching that. Next up, Solecki-Deaton takes on Joe Solecki. Joe Solecki was originally supposed to fight, I think it was Benoit Saint Denis, and that fight didn't come to fruition. Now Deaton takes this fight on extremely short notice. Deaton, who has fought at featherweight in the PFL, is a jack of all trades, has a few submissions on his record. Tough kid who is in his mid-30s now. Solecki, early 30s. Solecki, we know he likes to lock up that body triangle, hunt for a neck. But against Da Silva, Solecki dropped early. I don't trust Solecki's chin. I don't trust his stand-up. I do trust his jiu-jitsu. I think there is a strong possibility that he wins this fight via submission. I'm not going to be touching his money line at minus 580. I think that's a recipe for disaster here. Deaton didn't look good on the scales. Looked like he made a significant cut here, needed the box. And I like the fight doesn't go the distance line. I saw it in the minus 160s. I think if you are going to make on this play, there's only a few cents separating Solecki inside the distance versus Solecki-Deaton fight doesn't go the distance. So looking at that play, haven't pulled the trigger, and I see that most likely outcome Solecki by sub plus 125-ish. I don't think that's a bad play because there is a discrepancy in skill set on the mat. We've seen Deaton against, I think it was a Jock. There was a fight I was watching back in 2019 of Deaton where he was caught in an arm triangle and he was stuck on the bottom, and the cage saved him from his opponent getting enough leverage to tighten that squeeze and tap him out. But it didn't happen. I see Solecki winning via submission. Next up, now, before we get into this fight, my flyweight record has been stellar for many, many, many years. And Charles Johnson's coming in as a -170 betting favorite, and he's taking on Ode Osbourne at a catch weight of 130 pounds. This is a matchup that was put together fairly quickly. I believe Osbourne was initially supposed to take on Bondar, I believe. Johnson was in Thailand when he heard about this fight. We know Johnson, I'm not completely sold on Charles Johnson. He is a bit of a stationary target when he's trading in the pocket. I know he's got a grind to him, but he's been peppered and caught by shots from lesser opponents than Ode Osbourne. Charles Johnson, he can grind. He has a great gas tank. His confidence level is high. He is a favorite here, and he was the last fighter to the scales at weigh-ins. Last night I tweeted that for a catchweight bout. Osbourne, we know he has his warts, but he has very explosive early fights out of a solid camp in Las Vegas, was chin-checked last time out. I don't have faith in either fighter here. I'll be brutally honest. This is a fight that most of my plays, I believe 82 or 83%, I'm hitting an incredibly high clip, 37% ROI at this weight class, tracked since 2017. No play on this fight, though I am going to be leaning towards the underdog, Ode Osbourne. I think that he has some skills, especially if this is going to be taking place at any length of time on the feet. I don't trust either fighter here, but Osbourne has the ability to land strikes at range here and cause Charles Johnson some problems, especially early. So no play, and there are a number of question marks here. I was listening to an interview with John Coe where Charles Johnson was trying to find out how he was going to handle the sleeping habits, knowing that he was coming in to fight on less than a week notice here in the United States. He just arrived in the States this week, and he's fighting on Saturday. I believe he shared in that interview that he was going to arrive on Monday. And I'm not sure if that's enough time to make that weight cut, acclimate. And also, I don't particularly believe that Charles Johnson is a great fighter, especially now that this is a catchweight bout. So give me Ode Osbourne here. Let's see. We've got a few comments here. Great. Got your coffee. You are ready to win. Excellent. Well, cheers to you. Another matchup here where I see folks all over my timeline picking a side and putting a significant amount of their bankroll on Jordan Leavitt versus Victor Martinez. Jordan Leavitt coming in as a -125 betting favorite. Now this line is flopping around. If you take a look at books all over the place, Victor Martinez coming in as the +105 underdog. Right off the bat, you're watching the tape and you see Victor Martinez. He can be taken down almost seemingly at will, and then he gives up his back often. This is a reoccurrent theme through many of his fights. Jordan Leavitt, we know he has difficulty striking. He doesn't have much gas in the tank, but what he is solid at is controlling opponents on the mat. And Victor Martinez is going to look to try to get off on his hands, use his hands, and try to light Leavitt up on the feet. Especially the longer this goes, I could see Victor Martinez coming to life. But what I can't get away from is the way that Victor Martinez tries to get back to his feet. He will turn his back and And I know he's shorter. He's a shorter stature fighter, but that plays right into Jordan Leavitt's game. And this fight is a closely lined fight for a reason. I'll be picking Jordan Leavitt. I don't have much faith in either fighter. This is one of those fights where, and this card is it's okay to take a card off or to stay away. You don't have to force bets, risk 15, 20 units, which is 15 to 20% of your bankroll. I do not recommend doing that under any circumstance. But I'll be picking Jordan Leavitt here. I don't have much faith in Jordan Leavitt. I'll come out and say that. But Victor Martinez has shown that he has some real problems on the mat. I know he's a black belt, fights out of a great camp, but this is a guy, he gives up his back against a fighter who thrives on fighters who give up their back. So give me Jordan Leavitt there. Next up, we've got Jasudavicius. Jasudavicius. I'm going to get that right. Just Jasmine Jasudavicius. I've watched her fight a number of times. She considered herself the Canadian, the female version of GSP at one point, and that was something that really caught me off guard. Jasmine Jasudavicius, plus 110 underdog, taking on Gabriela Fernandes. Gabriela Fernandes, Brazilian fighter who, the way she walks around, watch her weigh-ins and watch the way that she fights. Very rigid on the feet. Has hands, but I'm concerned against a wrestler here, against Jasmine. Jasmine is a grinder, and I know that she was beaten in her last fight against a Brazilian fighter. I'm not touching this fight. Fernandes does have the better hands, but I'm going to roll with Jasmine Jasudavicius here as an underdog. The grind and the cardio, I believe, will come into play here later. I don't trust Fernandez's gas tank. So rigid on the feet. And just not a lot of faith in her. Not a lot of faith in either fighter. And another thing that I've tried to completely eliminate from my handicapping game when it comes to actually making third-party track plays, I avoid low-level women's mixed martial arts fights, and this is one of them. So if you want to talk volatility, talk women's mixed martial arts, low-level women's mixed martial arts. So no need to go out of your way to force anything. Good morning, sir. So give me Jasmine in that spot. Now, this is a fight that I'm getting a chuckle here because we have Trevor Peek, who has so many holes in his game. It's scary. It's like Swiss cheese watching him fight. Trevor Peek is a Neanderthal, though. When he comes at you, he does have a chin on him. I've watched the interviews where he talked about being a real a threat with the neck exercises at the Performance Institute. He apparently set some sort of record in neck strength and has a heck of a chin on him, but he can get clocked, and he overextends on many of his strikes. He overcommits in every facet of his game. He just hasn't fought a great fighter yet. He's undefeated. And Eric Gonzalez, the Ghost Pepper, is a bit of a mess as well. Comes out of the gates hot typically. He does have some positive attributes to speak of, though. He can throw hands. Defensively, he's a bit of a mess. I don't think he's capable of putting together 15 minutes here to cause Trevor Peek significant problems. But the thing is, Trevor Peek will give you the chance to do that. Trevor Peek will make a mistake and he'll make another mistake. And he made, I don't know, it was just a blunderful matchup I saw in the Contender Series. And he's a guy who is he's yet to taste defeat, so he's willing to take risks. And watch this face-off, icy face-off. I don't see this fight going very long. I think that it's going to last about maybe a round and a half or two, if that. But the unders are in play. I have a parlay, a free parlay that we put out of the under 2.5 here, and then the under 2.5 in the next fight between two Canadian fighters. But give me Trevor Peek to win inside the distance. I don't trust either fighter, but Trevor Peek does have legitimate power. Both of these fighters have some power, but Peek, I think his just Neanderthal-esque tendencies will prevail. Next up, we've got Malott-Lainesse taking on Mike Malott. Battle of Canadian fighters at 170 pounds. This is a matchup that I believe whoever gets off first is going to be the victor here. I've seen that. I remember mentioning that in the Ryan Bader Fedor 2 matchup, and this is a situation where Mike Malott, we've seen him. It kind of a switch flips for him, almost like Cody Garbrandt when things go haywire. And Malott-Lainesse is a fighter who has difficulty pacing himself. We know he's a great hammer. I like how he has a killer instinct, and I am in agreement with a take that he does remind me of Matt Brown in a lot of ways. I've said that on multiple breakdowns when he fought in the past, and Malott-Lainesse, he will go for it. He has killer instinct. Both of these fighters have killer instinct. So one of the free plays I put out for this card was that this Lainesse-Malott fight doesn't go the distance at -225 when it was, I think it's been steamed to the -320s or something like that now. So I don't see this one going the distance. I think the under 2.5, I saw it at one book for -230. So it was another spot. But this matchup, Malott, we haven't seen him go very deep in fights. And I'm concerned if it gets there, he may eat a lot of damage. And also, he may run out of gas. He may run out of gas trying to finish Lainesse or trying to grapple for any stretch of time. Lainesse, I don't think, is going to just sit there under Malott. So I'll be picking Malott, though. I think that he does have the threat of a submission is real, and also he's the cleaner striker of the two. Lainesse is the Muay Thai on him is solid, but he really commits to his strikes. So this fight, I don't expect to go the distance, and I'll be picking Malott there. Next up, we have the return of Tatiana Suarez. Now, I know folks are coming out of the woodwork now to back her in the -700s. This is a bit wild to me. She's fighting up a weight class. She's been out of the game for multiple years. And she's taking on Montana-De La Rosa, who isn't much to speak of from a striking standpoint. And she, I know, has some wrestling, but I don't expect her to be able to compete for multiple minutes with Suarez, unless Suarez gasses, because that's always a possibility when you've been out of the game for 3-4 years. She blew out her knee. She's not known as a great striker, Suarez. Against Nina Ansaroff, we saw her melt down the stretch and come out with the victory there, but I was a little caught off guard there by the poor performance late. The thing that really shines, though, you go back and watch the Esparza-Suarez matchup and others. When she shines, when she is firing on all cylinders, she is the dark horse of the 115-pound division. But this fight takes place at 125 pounds. I'll be picking Suarez. I don't think that folks should go out of their way to parlay her up at -750. De La Rosa, she fights at elevation. She is a solid fighter who's willing to take damage. We've seen her nose get busted up time and time and time again, but odds are that Suarez comes in here and ragdolls De La Rosa. I'm not touching this though. You have to be able to pick your spots, and you've worked too hard over the years to risk everything that you've worked for. So you want to, even on your worst day, let your bankroll fight another day. That's one of my quotes, one of my sayings here. I should put that on a t-shirt soon. Next up, Augusto Sakai taking on Sakai-Mayes. This is another spot where on my timeline, I'm seeing folks risk their bankroll on this fight, and I don't think you have to go out of your way to do that, especially if you're starting the year on a losing with the losing record in 2023. Why would you go out of your way and back a fighter in this matchup? Sakai-Mayes plus 100, one of the worst fighters on the heavyweight roster, who is he's a solid athlete. He throws hammers. He's someone who is a great nail, a great hammer, but a horrible nail. I don't trust Sakai-Mayes at all. I don't trust him any semblance of what he's going to be able to do. And then on the other side of the fight, you have Augusto Sakai, who's been knocked out in 4 consecutive fights. Somebody who, no matter what, I mean, this guy's been fighting at like 265 pounds for years, and he carries about 50 pounds of adipose tissue. Oh man, it's tough watching Sakai out there. He seems like he's just struggling through life. But here he is back again. He is a solid Muay Thai fighter who has some kicks, he has some punches, doesn't necessarily perform well when the fight hits the mat, doesn't have great wrestling, doesn't have great jiu-jitsu. I try to go out of my way to speak highly about fighters, but Sakai's someone I faded in the past, but I don't trust either fighter here. I think that Sakai is levels above Mayes when it comes to the actual striking acumen. I don't trust Mayes' chin. I don't trust Sakai's chin. I think that we're in for a sloppy heavyweight fight, but Sakai should be the more crisp of the two. And I slightly lean Augusto Sakai. Under no circumstances do I recommend, if you have a losing betting record, or if you're even close to a losing betting record, or if you're having a losing 2023, I do not recommend going out of your way to back Sakai-Mayes, or recommend folks tail and making a play of that nature. There are many other spots that will be available and other cards throughout the rest of 2023. And the pick's going to be Augusto Sakai, not with much conviction. And that's the thing here. There are no certainties in this game. And why go out of your way to lay your hard-earned money on a side where you're basically rostering one of the folks with someone with some of the lowest fight IQ we've seen at the heavyweight division. So give me Augusto Sakai, and it boggles my mind why folks would even go out of their way to make a play on this fight. Gosh, I'm getting agita here. Good morning, Kevin. Good to see you. Now, we have a matchup here between Andre Muniz and Brendan Allen. This is a fight that pits jiu-jitsu fighters against one another, though Brendan Allen has more of a mixed bag here. You look at the betting line, Brendan Allen plus 180 and Muniz coming in at minus 210. This is a spot where I don't have a play on this fight, but if I'm if I'm leaning towards a side, it's Brendan Allen here. I don't trust Muniz's gas tank. I know he has some slick, extremely high-level jiu-jitsu. I mean, we're talking the way that he's able to transition and take advantage of certain positions. You rarely see it to that level. I mean, the way he took care of Jacare, it was beautiful to watch. I know this fight doesn't go the distance. Line is sitting at minus 215 right now. Allen is the better striker here. He's somebody who I personally think that he's learning from his mistakes. He's getting better every time out. There have been some situations where Brendan Allen has made bonehead decisions inside of the octagon. He's been too he's let the ego get the best of him in certain spots. And Muniz, if Muniz ends up in top position, I do think that Allen's going to be able to survive for some time. I'm going to be picking. Man, you know what? I've hesitated. I have no play on this fight. I think that Allen is going to be able to survive an early onslaught here from Muniz. I think Muniz is going to come out hot, and this fight will hit the mat. And then I think that there's going to be a live opportunity for Brendan Allen. But look at the line here. At plus 180, I think that is actually a decent line. I'm really trying to pick my spots here and not I know there is people speak of value, and value is in the eye of the beholder. I do think that there is some value on Brendan Allen. I haven't made a play on the fight. I'll be picking Brendan Allen, but the real possibility when we break these fights down, there are multiple possibilities of outcomes, and we deal in implied probability. And I think that Muniz is live for a submission very early, but no play on that fight. I'll be picking Brendan Allen. And then we have the main event of the evening. This is a situation where you have Ryan Spann coming in as a plus 150 underdog, and he has shown glimpses of, I don't want to say greatness, but some high-level technique, and he's performed well in certain spots. But go just as far back as the Ion Cutelaba fight, Ryan Spann was mounted briefly, was caught in a couple of tough spots. It's amazing how folks don't recognize that happened. Nikita Krylov also has been caught in some bonehead decision-making. Krylov has shown that he can fight deep into fights if he isn't finished, which against Ryan Spann, there is a possibility of that happening. Watch back Nikita Krylov's fight against Volkan Ozdemir, and he was getting lit up early and often in that fight. But I've watched Krylov fight for many, many years. He's got a lot of miles on the odometer, and Ryan Spann fights out of a solid camp. We're in the smaller octagon here, so I don't think this fight is going to last more than, I'd say, if you're playing the under 3.5 or so, I think that is pretty darn. If you look at high implied probability, I know you're paying a very steep line for that, but I don't see this fight getting halfway into the 4th or 5th round. I don't see this fight going the distance. You're looking at, minus 1,000, minus 1,400. But if you're going to play a side here, I would recommend an inside the distance play on one of these fighters rather than their money line. I'm leaning towards Nikita Krylov because of his ability to be a jack of all trades, and Ryan Spann's chin is a real liability here. The weight cut, both of these fighters looked like they had a decent weight cut. They were the first fighters to the scale, and now they're going to be rehydrated, ready to go. The challenge is at minus 170-ish. How much value is there at this point? Because Krylov has shown that he can make some pretty poor decisions out there at times. Granted, he's been able to overcome some of them lately against Volkan. He took some shots, man. And if Ryan Spann lands on you with the same punches, I think that Krylov would drop. But also, I don't think Spann can take the damage that Krylov's able to dish out. I'm going to be picking Nikita Krylov here, and I don't see this fight going the distance, so I would take a look at Krylov inside the distance. Make sure you shop around, though, because there are different prices all over the place. Have a great day. Mike's MMA Picks here. Check the betting record, betmma.tips. I am third-party tracked. I have free plays up today, and make sure to pick your spots. This is a card where I do not advocate for risking 10, 15, 20 units, which are that is a percentage of your bankroll. So that needs to be put out there. If you're risking 15 or 20 units or even 30 units, that means you're risking 30% of your bankroll. I know some folks deal with flat betting, but I'm not a believer in that type of system, especially these days when you see folks on the betmma.tips leaderboard where they are risking a big chunk of their bankroll every event, and it's just something to consider. So make sure you do your homework. Remember, there are multiple spots up ahead throughout this calendar year. So I'm going to wish everybody a fantastic fight day. Remember to go get what's yours, and let's get after it.